Peace and love, everybody. This is Young Nas from iGotOptions LLC, and in this video I want to talk about why some stocks don't have a PE ratio. Alright, so why don't some stocks have a price to earnings ratio? Right, it doesn't make sense, right? Shouldn't every stock have one? And so with that being said, technically all stocks do have a price to earnings ratio, but eventually you're going to come across this problem where that information isn't displayed for that stock. Alright, so before I go into that, it's important that you understand what a PE ratio is. Alright, so if you don't understand what a PE ratio is, this video is not going to make any sense. So I recommend that you check out my video that I made about 2 days ago, where I just dedicate that entire video to just breaking down exactly what this is. Alright, so if you don't know what a PE ratio is, I recommend that you check that video out. And moving forward, assuming that you do know what this is, the main reason, the most common reason why stocks don't have a PE ratio, or rather don't display their PE ratio, is because that stock or that company isn't profitable. Alright, so that's really the main, most common reason why some stocks don't display their PE ratio. Alright, so to make it make a little bit more sense, I want you to think about how PE ratios are calculated. Just a refresher, a PE ratio is calculated by taking what? The share price of a stock and dividing it by its EPS. Remember, that's the formula. Share price divided by EPS. Now, we know that the share price of any stock is not going to be a negative number. Every stock on the stock market is going to have a positive number for their share price. Their EPS, however, can be a negative number, right? Because they may not be bringing in enough profit. They may not be bringing in any profit at all. They may be in debt, all right? So with that being said, that will affect their EPS. If their EPS is negative, that's going to cause their PE ratio to be negative, all right? Because that's how PE ratios are calculated. Now, in conclusion, investors don't really want a stock to have a negative PE ratio, because that's essentially saying, hey, you're doing bad. You're not bringing in any profit whatsoever, right? Why would I want to invest my money into a non-profitable company? All right, so that's essentially the gist of why some stocks don't display their PE ratios, right? And I'm going to show you an example. We take a look at Peloton, all right? Peloton, we see here that its PE ratio is NA, right? It says not applicable. So they don't have one. And it's because of its EPS, right? It's negative $2. So if we take 39 and divide it by negative 2, that's already going to leave us with a negative number as our quotient. All right, so investors aren't attracted to that. Right? They are not attracted to that whatsoever. But if I put up a stock that has a positive number for their EPS, like Tesla, we see here this is Tesla. We take a look at its EPS, it's a positive number. All right, so if we basically said, all right, 900 divided by 3 is what? 300. Now take a look at its PE ratio. All right, so truth be told, as long as the stock has an EPS, it technically always has a PE ratio. But if that PE ratio is a negative number, then they're not even going to display it, because it's not making their company look good anyway. All right, because it's showing how unprofitable they are. All right, so this is the most common reason, and really the main reason, why you'll see that some stocks don't have or won't display their PE ratio. All right, peace.